by law, the town may audio or video record this meeting. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. I call the meeting to order. We are going to look at the meetings from two previous meetings, April 21st, 2022 first. Any corrections, changes?
I just have a question. Maybe you can, or maybe Katie can answer it. On page 2, the second to last paragraph, where it said, Leo was present, who stated that he has been a longtime farmer in the town and owns 33 acres on Main Street. Does he still own them? I thought he said, okay, that's correct. All right, and then the only other thing was a typo on page 5. It should be nitrogen and not nitrogen. It's on,
Oh, I missed that.
here, right there. It's just a typo.
Good catch.
That's it.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of April 21st?
Make a motion
With
to accept.
amendments.
With the amendments.
With the, I'm sorry, with the amendment.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of April 21st and 29th with corrections noted by.
We're only doing April 21st.
Okay.
Yeah.
April 21st.
Yep. With the amendment,
Yes.
okay?
Second?
I second the motion
Okay,
to accept the minutes for April 21st, including the amendment.
All right.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, okay. Now the meeting, minutes of our short meeting on April 29th, 2022. Do I hear a motion to accept it?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from April 29th, 2022, as stated.
Second, okay.
I will second that motion.
Speak up. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
that's unanimous too. Board of Health work session.
So unfortunately, the Agricultural Commission had an error on their agenda and won't be able to have a joint meeting this evening. The Board of Health is welcome to discuss if you'd like. I know last time you reviewed it, you don't have to do anything further this evening.
I read through it, I thought it looked well. The only, I will have one clarification. And I know if this is appropriate, this must have been from the person that sent the letter in. And he talked about being grandfathered in or compensated for. Can you just explain?
What his letter said?
Yeah. What he meant by that?
So he's a pre-existing farm, he's a fully commercial farm, he's over 5 acres. His request was, that if you do amend the regulations, that you don't create a hardship for him. So he already has acres of fencing already put up. His request is if you amend this, not to force him to move his fences.
Oh, all right. Okay, so we're putting this off to the next meeting?
Unless anyone has anything they'd like to discuss with it.
No, that was the one thing I had highlighted in that letter too, is
It's like
the
it's-
distance. And
Just
if it's-
explain it to me.
If it's a 5-foot distance anyway, and he says it's got
Yeah.
a second fence 4 to 5 feet in, I would think,
I didn't think there was an issue, but I wasn't sure
yeah,
what we were getting at.
I read it the same way. I didn't
Right.
think it would be that big a deal. But we can table this as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned.
All right.
And I think we'll go out of order to item 7, correspondence. A citizen is requesting the board to require worn face masks being worn on all rides to the Harwich Council on Aging vans.
So I did add a letter from the Council on Aging Director, in front of you. The Harwich Council on Aging provides transportation services for older adult residents of Harwich on 2 handicap-accessible vans to COA programs, grocery stores and pharmacies, and other local locations. Throughout the course of the COVID-19 pandemic, the COA has set and revised our precautions in line with applicable federal, state, and local requirements and in response to public health trends. Presently, mask use is recommended but not required on the COA vans. Following the April 18th, 2022 court order lifting the CDC public transportation mask mandate, the COA maintain a mask mandate for an additional week through April 26, 2022, while communicating with the Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority, the entity we lease our vehicles from, and other COAs. Throughout those meetings and consultations, I was made aware that the CCRTA would not be adopting a mask mandate for their direct transportation services, nor for the towns leasing vehicles from them. The significant majority of COAs were not planning to adopt their own mask mandates at the department level. The COA has maintained several COVID-related precautions. We continue to operate our vehicles at 50% capacity to allow for physical distancing between passengers. Consistent with CDC guidance, we recommend mask use for drivers and passengers and keep a supply of masks on the van for anyone who would prefer to wear one. Our current policies are compliant with federal, state, regional, and local requirements, and recommendations are consistent with the practices at other councils on aging providing comparable services. Please let me know if I can provide any additional information. Thank you. Emily Mitchell, current Council on Aging Director, who will be our next town clerk.
Okay.
I did have a discussion with Emily earlier. The vans primarily are for grocery store trips. They do some medical services, and she said those are typically single individuals on a trip.
Discussion from the board?
I feel like this is a department level thing, so it's, you know, with that few people riding the van, it's, you know, I don't think we would need to take any action.
Who
I
was the
think people
citizen?
can.
Who was the citizen that she used the van?
So we have someone present.
I mean,
Terry is present. She wrote the letter.
okay,
I can move the microphone.
Sure.
to Terry.
yeah. Sure.
Good evening. I'm Terry Canavan, and I wrote the letter that was sent to you.
Can you speak into the microphone? We can't hear you.
Is this better?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Terry Canavan, and I wrote the letter that was sent to you for several reasons. I am well aware of the federal judge that reversed the federal mandate on masks on public transportations. Immediately the day after that occurred, Governor Baker wisely, and I believe correctly, instituted a executive order that all passengers riding on the ride in the Boston and surrounding areas, it covers a lot, must be masked. That was to protect all disabled people and elderly that utilize the ride services. Now, I had many discussions with the governor's office and the attorney general's office because I wanted to make sure I had my facts totally correct, because I didn't want to present anything that was not correct. I am the former chairperson of the Disability Rights Committee for the town of Harwich. I am an ADA access monitor for the Commonwealth from previous certification. I am a registered nurse, and I am disabled. I am also unique to Harwich that I am a ride accessible eligible person right now until April 30th, 2025. I have also been approved to be an ADA paratransit transportation passenger on the CCRTA disability transportation. Now, Governor Baker's mandate for the ride did not transpose immediately to the CCRTA. Interesting, the CCRTA is not under the Department of Transportation in Massachusetts. They have their own kind of separate umbrella because they're privately owned. But on many discussions that I've had privately with the CCRTA since this issue has arisen, they have changed their unwritten policy, shall I say, so that anybody that is on ADA paratransit transportation, the driver must be masked. And in fact, they've now even had me assigned recently to the van, which is very one-on-one, me and the driver, and that's all. I am very, very grateful for the work that our Council on Aging has done. The transportation program is wonderful. I am very blessed to be allowed to use it. However, you can't open the windows. You can't socially distance. And it is inappropriate, I believe, for any person on the van not to be masked if I'm on it. If I was on the same type of transportation in Boston, or even down here on CCRTA, a mask would be required. I'm not trying to conquer the world here, but I do expect an ADA accommodation. I do believe you should, as the members of the board in town, that you should go a step further. The elderly people in our town should be majorly protected. Many of them have many medical issues, as I'm sure none of us would have to discuss as to how frequent that occurs. But a lot of them also have cognitive disorders. More important than not, all of them need to be protected, not just me. I am here for me because I can only speak for me. I am also here because I'm disabled and a registered nurse. I'm unique in many fashions here. Now, I am told I can, in fact, the Attorney General's office has sent me 2 forms now because I haven't filled out either one of them to file a citizen's civil complaint against the town. I don't want to do that. I think that this can be handled easily locally. Now, I've had many discussions with Emily. She understands my position, and I'm not sure she disagrees with it, but her hands are tied. She clearly told me that this board, you people, make those health and safety rules for the town. And that's why I'm here, to raise your awareness. Make sure you understand Governor Baker has already issued an executive order for the Commonwealth. And I don't believe there's any reason that that shouldn't be upheld for our most vulnerable people. Now, it is true that the town rents the van from the CCRTA for $1 a year, because the CCRTA wants Council on Aging to give seniors transportation. They don't have the help to do it anymore. But the town of Harwich employs the van drivers. My taxes, and yes, I pay taxes, help pay for their salaries. I don't think it's inappropriate to look at this board and say, I respectfully request you to protect me, a disabled person, where I would get this without question anywhere else that I travel. So, because of politics or for whatever reason, I'm here in front of the board to request you to protect the health and safety of not only just myself, but every vulnerable senior that uses the van. And I don't believe there's a whole ton of people that do, but the people that do need extra protection for their own health and safety. I'm not going to preach to the choir how contagious COVID is. You know those statistics much better than I do. So I don't even have to go there. This is a deadly virus. And the population that is the most vulnerable to problems are seniors. I respectfully request you to take it off correspondence, because I didn't realize that that was going to happen. I really was requesting action and a vote to be taken tonight. I don't think this is something that should be kicked down the road for another month and maybe get on an agenda then. I did have a conversation today with the interim town clerk, who informed me that the board can set its own agenda, and once it's in writing, you can vote on anything you want tonight that's on that paper. And I respectfully request that you members of the board take this to heart, to your conscience, to your intelligence and educational backgrounds, and please vote tonight. And I'll be happy to sit down and watch you vote. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. So how many people on the average ride the bus?
It actually varies. They have a schedule. Like on Mondays, they usually provide people the opportunity. Every other Monday, they could take a ride to Market Basket down to Sagamore. Now, that van was getting to be about 5 people on a trip. I'm hearing maybe not so many now. I took myself off of that trip because it was too many people in a small space. Plus, when people do their shopping, the van driver actually carries the grocery bags, etc., back on the van. So, I mean, there's no way you can social distance from that. In my situation, it's a little bit different because I don't do the stairs on the bus. I have to use the lift. So the driver is physically next to me because they have to manually operate the lift up and down. And there's a seat belt, if you will, that gets attached behind me. Well, I don't know if it's any good, but it's supposed to keep me from falling backwards. I'm not trying it though. So the closeness is always going to be there for me. I don't have a way of getting away with that. I wish I could do the stairs. I'm working on it. Maybe someday, maybe not. I can't speak to that at this moment. But the way the aisles are close together. So where that gentleman is seated and this seat, the aisle would be in between, but the other passenger would be here. Sometimes you have to share a seat with another person, depending on how many people are on the van. You can't socially distance on it. You just can't. And then there are folks that, choose to eat or drink on the van on the way back. And, there's all kinds of coughing and sneezing and things that happen. And it's very difficult to distance from that as well. Most of the time, I don't believe the van has that many people. The other 2 Mondays of the month, they take trips down like to Hyannis. So like they go to Trader Joe's or Christmas tree shop, Staples, wherever people want to go. But there aren't a lot of people that go. But again, if there's more than just the driver, the distance is not 6 feet between people. You just can't do it. The bus isn't that big. Even if the bus driver chooses to use what's called the big bus, well, yeah, the big bus is longer, but they made it that way to put more seats in. So the seats are actually closer together if they were measured. So that's not a good plan either for distancing. And the windows don't open. Ventilation on the bus isn't optimum. There's certainly no HEPA filters of any kind going on there. So I believe it's not inappropriate to request, even if it's just me on the van, that the driver also be masked. And that's why I'm here. Question?
Maximum of 5. They won't take any more than 5 on each van.
All right, let me ask you a question. What is our average running here in Harwich right now?
Or what?
Of COVID.
We've seen 22 over the past 5 days.
All right. I guess my question would be, and maybe we'll have to bring this back, that maybe the driver should be wearing a mask if you're going to have to be that close. But as far as being in the van itself, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot different than when you get out of the van and go to the store or Christmas tree shop or wherever. You're going to have people that also don't wear a mask.
Absolutely, you're correct.
And you're doing the right thing by wearing one. You're protecting yourself as well as others, but you are protected the best you can. I think it's a little difficult to make some of this stuff mandatory at this point in time. Could that change? I think possibly if the numbers would start to go up, we may have to look at it. But based on what's coming out of the state, I think we're in compliant, and I know what you're saying about the closeness, but like I said, if you're willing to get on the van to go to the store, you're going to be exposed to the store, maybe even more so than in the van, because you've got people walking around in there. And
Well, that's a good point. People are walking around. They're not stationary in your airspace.
They would be more contagious to you than somebody sitting in a van that's breathing quietly and looking straight ahead. I guess what I'm saying is I don't see a lot of difference if you're willing to get on the van to go to the store, and if you really felt that was that significant for you that you wouldn't even want to go to the store. And I'm not just saying you, I'm saying anyone that's in, because you're not going to be the only one in this position. There's going to be a lot, and I agree with that. And I don't know, do they require the van drivers to wear one?
No.
They don't, at any time. Now, the only reason I would ask that is I see in these regulations, number 7, where it talks about home health care workers, including personal care attendants and home health aides in community and home-based settings where they are providing patient-facing care, provided, however, the requirement should only be to the worker providing the care. So I'm thinking if
Not patient care. If they were
It's
going
not-
to a
yeah.
medical appointment,
then it would be.
Maybe
Yeah.
you could argue
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
But
I
that
don't
would
think
be-
it's the same.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as close as I could say that this would fit, that the driver, but I don't know that it, at this time, with the way it is here in Harwich, that the numbers, I don't think warrants requiring everybody on that van to wear the mask. You can choose to wear it, and I think that's a very good thing to do. But I don't know that it should be required for everybody on there. That would be,
Yeah, I
If I
think,
could just add a little something to what you were saying. Sorry, I'm not good at microphones. What you're saying is accurate, that people inside the stores for the most, well, some people do, some people don't, most don't. But they're moving. You're not sharing the airspace with that individual for an extended time at all, number one. Number two, when you're on the van, you are stationary. You can't move around. You can't get out of your seat belt. somebody starts coughing or sneezing, you can't go to the back of the bus, the front of the bus. You can't go outside. You can't do anything. You can't remove yourself from that situation. And the third thing, two of the van drivers, and this is, I am not pointing fingers whatsoever, they don't live in Harwich. They come from another town that has been known to have high qualities of COVID that Harwich doesn't normally have. So there's another exposure brought into the mix that, again, you can't separate yourself. If you're traveling to Hyannis for 20 minutes on a bus, you can't move around.
Let me just say something.
Can I say one
Oh,
thing?
Go ahead.
Do they have regulations where if you are actively sick, you do not go on the bus?
Well, supposedly, but nobody monitors that. There was one trip that I was on. Oh my goodness, I was so nervous. We were going to Hyannis. This individual got on the bus, clearly was ill. I believe the bus driver shouldn't have taken the person, okay? This person started coughing and hacking, and oh my goodness. And
That's not
wound up-
that's probably not a normal thing, though.
Well, you never know what's going to happen with the elderly. They think they have a little sniffle and it turns out to be pneumonia. I mean, that's just the reality of aging.
Right, but I'm talking about people who you have felt, besides that one person, actively showing symptoms that could be COVID.
There were several people on the bus that got sick that day.
Well, besides that one instance.
Yeah, well, the Friends of the Council on Aging also have their own bus. I don't know if they purchased it, okay? So they don't rent it, they purchase it. And now I was not on this excursion, but they took an excursion. There was a person on the van that was positive for COVID, gave it to somebody else. I mean, there's one instance right there that has already happened, and everyone knows about it. I believe in prevention.
Well, I think by wearing a mask, you are doing the best you
Well,
can
I'm
for
doing the
yourself.
best I can, but I can't prevent what other people are doing around me.
I don't know if we can,
I don't know if we can do that. I mean,
Right.
when you get to that store, and you say there's more space between you and that person, but I would venture to say that most stores do not have a ventilation system that would preclude you from maybe breathing in what somebody that's walking around without a mask and has COVID. So I don't really think that you are that much more exposed in that van with you wearing a mask than you are when you get to the store. And I would think it's difficult for us to say that everybody else in that van has to wear a mask when you're gonna go somewhere where people probably aren't gonna be wearing a mask. If you were that concerned,
Well, the governor had no problem doing an executive order for everyone that uses the ride. And they go to
well, then we'd have to
places
see
that
that and,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry?
We would have to see that executive order.
It's on his website. Anybody have a computer? You can look it right up.
So it is in your requirements, you have the ride as one of the ride META program is required out of Boston, is number one.
They
Oh, out
don't
of
even-
Boston,
Out of
yeah.
Boston.
The rides, passengers, and the drivers, they're not allowed to go on the vehicle without being masked.
That's a lot of, a much bigger territory than what we're looking at
Right.
here.
That's what I'm saying. If they have to do it, if I was up there, and the CCRTA is doing it down here, this little area, to me, I don't believe you need to be a rocket scientist to realize that it needs to be done.
I just, looking at the situation here in Harwich right now, with our positivity rate, I just don't think it warrants something quite that drastic. That's,
Well, in New York, the CDC director.
we're not in New York.
I understand
We're
that,
not
but
in
we're
Boston, we're right
stone's
here in
throw
Harwich.
away. And these things move like crazy, and I
And
think we all
we're
know
aware of that,
that.
but we're talking about right now, I don't think we can make everyone else on that bus wear masks.
What about the driver?
I don't know.
You couldn't do it tonight. You could have another meeting and have a regulation. You'd have to post it
As such. The only thing my question to that would be is that driver really in any more proximity than in the van? Because we're not looking at a big bus or a train. To the people than the other people on in the van itself. So for him to be wearing a mask and maybe somebody on the van not wearing a mask, I don't know that it correlates, like to mandate that he has to.
It would be very helpful to me if I was the only passenger. And it is an ADA accommodation for me, given everything else aside. Just like today, I wasn't planning to come to this meeting. I didn't realize that my letter was under correspondence. I really expected that it was going to be an agenda item. And I didn't even realize that Dr. Katie wasn't the chairperson. I didn't even know about Pamela until today. So I made a phone call to a wonderful person in town administration, Danielle, and said, Danielle, I got to go to that meeting, but I don't know if my legs will take me down that corridor. I didn't write a letter. I didn't bring a doctor's note. I didn't go to a committee. I didn't get on anybody's agenda. I had a wheelchair in the foyer, and Dr. Katie herself wheeled me up here. That was accommodation, and I'm very grateful for all of that, and I thank all the people involved. A mask on the COA van is an ADA accommodation to me that is equal to that wheelchair and Dr. Katie pushing me. And I'm not a fan of wheelchairs. I try to stay out of them.
Does anybody else on the board have any comments?
Well, just from listening to you, Terry.
Yes, sir.
It sounds like, specifically with the driver, that your major concern on the bus was when they are directly working with you, fastening you, like using the lift. You said they're right over you, right on top of you. Clearly that is within space. Would it be reasonable for us to ask the driver to put a mask on while they are directly transporting a rider in and out of the van if they need that, if they are going to be right within their direct personal space? But I don't feel they should have to wear it at all the times just while driving the van. Would
Like-
that be, can we do that? And
Bring it
would
back.
that be reasonable for you?
You could direct me to reach out to COA and request that they do that, but we couldn't require it without having,
So we would need to bring it back. We can't make that mandate tonight.
but we could,
But
Why don't we try
actually,
the
I'm told
request?
you can. Emily told me she couldn't with her.
they can't vote because it's not, and we have to have a hearing for that, for a regulation or a mandate. What's on there is they could vote on voting to direct me to do something. You could vote, but it can't be a regulation or a mandate. You'd have to have an advertised hearing for that. You could decide
That's
on a
the way
day
it's
to have
always
another
been.
meeting. You can direct me to act as your staff member.
I think the suggestion to ask, if the driver with personal contact, someone in a wheelchair that has maximum assistance to be transported on and off the bus, wear a mask at that time.
But we would have to bring that back, right?
To make it a requirement.
Yeah.
And see what they say to that.
And when using the lift, operating the lift, because they're right next to you.
Wear a mask within,
And if they need assistance with
Yeah, if you're
putting
like-
your
if
seatbelt
you're- If
on.
you're gonna be helping a person and they're that close, physically that close, like helping somebody out of a wheelchair onto something, that maybe that, if this is the driver, would wear a mask then, but he doesn't have to wear it at all times in the van.
Any other,
Were they always were the drivers wearing masks before?
Well,
there was a requirement.
this was an issue even when it was mandated, okay? There was one driver that, without question, had the mask on properly all the time, never had an issue. It was an issue with the other two drivers. I mean, nobody likes a mask. I don't like it either. But it's not about Big Brother telling you what to do. It's about thinking about the other person, and you could be a carrier and not even know it. So yeah, no,
protecting yourself by wearing a mask.
I understand that, but it's not 100%, and we all know that.
Nothing, in
Yeah.
reality, nothing's
I
100%.
understand
Did
that.
have a few employees that were medically exempt. I'm not sure if they're one of them from wearing a mask when it was a mandate, just
Oh.
as a side note.
My recommendation is to bring this back and see if we can at least go with the driver wearing one when they're physically
Close personal.
helping somebody, into or out of the van in that respect. So,
I will reach out to them tomorrow morning.
So, may I ask a board a question? What is your opposition to following Governor Baker's executive order for disabled and elderly people?
because it's not that critical right now, and not that we could do it, but we're not in the middle of the pandemic.
But we are. It hasn't gone away, ma'am.
It might be coming back, but right at this moment, I don't think it warrants doing that.
I have a friend that's a nurse that does home care, right? 4 clients in one day canceled because they had COVID. The physical therapist had to cancel because she had
They're
COVID,
face to
and
face
so
with you,
did her
and that's what we're
husband.
saying, that maybe we'll bring this back and discuss it as far as the driver who is physically providing aid to a person wear the mask.
With all due respect, I believe that this board should adopt what
We're
Governor...
not going to do that tonight,
No.
unless someone here disagrees with that on the board.
And you can schedule, if you would like to bring it back in an emergency meeting, you can pick a time tonight if you would like to. Or you can wait and see
I'd like to see the
how
response
discussion-
of what they say.
But I did ask you specifically if having the driver wearing the mask would be a reasonable accommodation for you while they are directly
It would be,
transporting,
yeah.
and you agreed.
Everything is a help.
We
Yes,
do
sir.
need some time to make that happen. I think we're all willing to do that, but we can't do that tonight. That's all we're saying. Our hands are bound for making that happen tonight. We are willing to get the process going on that, and I would think that's a totally reasonable accommodation to have the driver wearing a mask while directly buckling somebody in using the lift. But we can't mandate that right now tonight.
We can't legally do that.
No.
Okay. From my advantage point, after speaking to the governor's office, the attorney general's office, and so many other people, I respectfully disagree. You do have the authority to act and act tonight.
Well, you are accommodating tonight because you have directed me to speak to staff, so that is a direct accommodation at this moment. Time will tell if we can proceed further, but we are making an accommodation this evening.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we bring this back for further considerations of having the driver, when they are direct physical contact with the patient, that they wear a mask during that time, and bring it back and discuss it
After
then.
Katie talks.
Yeah.
You want me to talk to
Yes,
them
please.
first? And then, okay.
I'll second that.
I
Or
hope
we
you're
will-
gonna look at who's going to be the enforcer of that, because it's just not gonna happen, I'll tell you right now.
Let's deal with what we're gonna do with, we were talking about them wearing the mask, not who's gonna enforce it. So let's,
One step at a time
Yeah.
right now.
Okay, thank you very much for listening.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for coming.
I'm glad to see you're wearing a mask.
I always do.
Did you want help out now, or did you want to stay for the rest of the meeting? Okay, let me know when you're ready to go, and I'll help you down. You're welcome.
We up to the, well, no, it's after,
We can move on to whatever order you'd like.
okay. So, new business, 5A, they have,
Do you want me to read it? I'll read it. Show cause hearing, Bishop 1 Waquasit Road, owner has requested a show cause hearing to show why an order issued by the health department should be modified or withdrawn. The order letter dated March 23rd, 22 noted that a space above the garage had been converted from an unfinished loft area to a bedroom and full bath without benefit of a permit. Dwelling required to return to a compliant 4-bedroom dwelling or septic upgrade to accommodate the additional bedroom. They have withdrawn this request. They pulled the building permit and eliminated that space as a bedroom, so no action would be necessary this evening.
okay, and D is a request from the Dennis Harwich Lions Club waiver of temporary food service permit fee for $50 on the event July 30th and 31st, 2022.
I believe we do have someone present for this.
We have the policy. Any discussion?
Good evening. My name's Janet Boudreau. I'm here with the Dennis Harwich Lions Club. And I had sent a letter to the board requesting that we have the $50 fee waived for our craft fair that we're going to have the end of July. And my husband and I came here 2 years ago, and we requested this. And after discussion and everything, you did allow us to have that fee waived. So this is to respectfully request that you allow us again to waive it, because we do so much for the town of Harwich. And I did send in the letter, and I'm not going to read it all, but I listed a lot of the things.
No, we're very impressed with what you do,
Yes.
Thank you.
for sure. Do I hear a motion to waiver the
I
temporary
move to
permit fee?
waive the $50 fee for the temporary food permit for the Lions Club.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for
Good
your hard
evening.
work.
So when you apply for the food permit, you won't need to have the fee. Just everything else will have it. Okay,
We had sent in the application,
perfect, thank you.
so, okay? Everything all set?
Want me to mail the permit to you, or do you want to pick it up?
You could mail it to me? Do you have my address? Thank you.
And C is a request of Adult Sharing Living of Harwich Incorporated waiver of event permit food service fee of $50 for various events throughout July and September.
And I believe Jeff is present online.
Oh, okay.
Jeff, do you have anything you'd like to present to the board? Jeff, would you like to present anything to the board?
I hear a motion to accept the waiver permit fee?
I move to accept the waiving of the permit fee for the adult shared living of Harwich.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application, D is application for extension of sampling variance of Massachusetts Tier 3 Beach Earl Road.
You want me to-
Please.
So beaches are sampled weekly, with the exception of any beaches that have received a variance. These two beaches have received them. In the past, it's a variance actually from the state. It means basically that 2+ years of clean sampling data, the state will allow the monitoring to decrease from weekly to monthly. This is a common occurrence. They're just up for their renewed variance.
Do I hear a motion for the extension of sampling variance of Tier 3 Beach Earl Road?
Motion to accept.
Can I just ask a question before we do that?
Oh, yeah.
When we're looking at this, you look at the number of samples collected and then the average sample result, the highest sample result, what is an acceptable one? What are we looking for?
For these beaches, it is I always confuse the pond one. This one is 104 CFUs per 100 milliliters.
Okay, so all of these are past 4 years, okay.
Well under.
Yeah, well under.
I had
All right.
concerns about the upward trend, but if we're looking at for under 104, that alleviates my concerns, at least for now.
I didn't know what this was in relationship to, so that's why I need a little clarification there. So, go ahead.
These are literally just
Yeah,
the sample difference of what they grabbed.
yeah, all right.
I move to extend the sampling variance for Earl Road. Do we have to do them individually?
You do.
Okay.
Second.
Second? Did you second?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the other one is for application of extension of sampling variance of a Massachusetts Tier 3, oh, no, I'm sorry, Tier 3 Beach Pleasant Bay. And we have the samples here.
Again, I move to accept the application for extension of sampling variance for Pleasant Bay as well.
Second.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? You want to read that?
Hearing 0 Orleans Road, 5-lot definitive subdivision environmental impact report to demonstrate compliance with Harwich Board of Health Regulation 1.211. The proposed open space residential subdivision plan will have 5 building lots and approximately 830 long subdivision road serving the lots and 2 open space lots. The proposal seeks approval of variances from Title V, 15214 nitrogen loading limitation, nitrogen aggregation plan approval, where the proposed building lot and open space lots are considered in meeting the 440 acre requirement in Harwich Board of Health Regulation 1.211, compliance with Town of Harwich Septic Disposal Regulation, groundwater impact report plans prepared by Clark Engineering LLC.
All right, I'm going to recuse myself since I'm in a butter.
Okay.
Within the 30 or 300, whatever, but yeah. I'm going to step down.
David Clark, Clark Engineering, on behalf of Eastwood Companies, and I believe Susan Ledoux is online from Eastwood Companies. One correction, we're not asking for any variances. It was just a mistake in the permitting process. Nitrogen aggregation is allowed provision in Title V. It requires local approval, and so that's why we're here tonight. And the second part of why we're here is the approval of the environmental impact report for the subdivision. So, first off is the nitrogen aggregation. In Harwich, you're allowed to, under the subdivision rules and regulations and the zoning bylaw, to propose a open space subdivision, and that's what this is. The bylaw allows reduction in lot sizes so long as you provide a certain amount of open space. The applicant could have done a traditional grid subdivision where all lots were 40,000 square feet or more. That's the minimum for this zoning district. Those lots would not require an aggregation plan because they would have sufficient size to put on-site sewage disposal systems for up to 4 bedrooms or 5 if the lots were 50,000 square feet each. So with the open space subdivision, obviously the lots are smaller. I think they average about 20,000 square feet. And there's in excess of, I think, 300,000 square feet. No, that might be off a little, but I don't have the plan right there. But there's sufficient open space when looked at in aggregate. Each lot would support up to 5, I think 6 bedrooms in my report. There's a sufficient open space to allow for that. Just like there's a number of subdivisions in town, the closest one is right next door, Little Shaver Way. Those lots are all 20,000 square feet or so, and there's an open space around that subdivision. When the houses, before the first house was built, the developer came before the Board of Health and had a nitrogen aggregation plan approved where each of the lots were allowed at least 4 bedrooms, and I think 2 of the lots were allowed 5 bedrooms. Because when you look at it in aggregate, the entire subdivision meets the 440 gallons per day per acre. So that's what we're proposing here. Eastwood Company's prepared the requisite documentation that goes along with such an approval where the open space is permanently restricted from development. And each of the lots would then also be deed restricted to the number of bedrooms based upon the aggregation.
Can I ask, when you're done, I want to ask.
That is pretty much it. It's typically something that's fairly routine. Again, we're not asking for any variances because this is something that is permitted within Title V, subject to local approval.
We did receive a late letter that we can read into the record if you like. It is at each one of your spot. I'm happy to read it if you would like.
Yes, please, go ahead. I didn't open the meeting. I opened the meeting, I'm sorry.
So this was from Christopher Senni. Sorry if that's pronounced incorrectly. Dear members of the Harwich Board of Health, I'm an attorney based in Brewster. I represent the Harwich residents identified below, each of whom own property abutting the above referenced subject property. I have a conflict this evening and cannot attend your meeting, but I ask that this letter be added to the file and considered. My clients understand that the application proposes 5 building lots that do not meet the nitrogen loading limitations. But because it's proposing an open space residential development, it seeks your approval to aggregate the smaller lot size and the dedicated open space. In presenting this application, an instrument has been offered for your consideration called Grant of Title V Nitrogen Loading Restrictions and Easement on Facility Land and Credit Land 310 CMR 15216. My clients and I plan to appear before the Planning Board this coming Tuesday evening to make some comments on the proposed definitive plan. However, in connection with the variance request before your board this evening, we wish to make a suggestion with regard to the restrictions on the use of the so-called credit land. To avoid any conflict between this instrument and the requirements of the zoning bylaw and definitive plan approval, we ask that the board consider requiring that the applicant add the following sentence at the end of the enumerated paragraph number 2 stating prohibitions credit lands. In addition to the above restrictions, inasmuch as the credit land is the common open space required for a flexible cluster development under section 325-101 of the zoning bylaws, and in such as subsection G of that bylaw, section states that the common open space shall be maintained in an open and natural condition without clearing in its natural condition for the protection of habitat. The credit land shall be maintained in such a condition except to the extent such land accommodates drainage structures approved by the town of Harwich Stormwater Authority. As this provision reads presently, active use of the credit land is possible. Our proposed additional language would further the goal of ensuring sufficient undisturbed land to help absorb the nitrogen and is consistent with the restrictions on this land related to zoning and subdivision approval. Please feel free to call or email with me with any questions or concerns. My cell is, and I won't read that. Sincerely, Christopher Senni, clients represented, John J. Burns and Linda Brogdon Burns, Trevor Childs, Jacqueline Cashman Childs, William and Lisa Martin. Just a quick comment on that letter. Title V gives a template for the nitrogen aggregation that you have to use, so we couldn't necessarily change that. For the credit land is my understanding. I think there may be some confusion on the planning board versus the Board of Health. That credit land for the Board of Health cannot be built on ever.
So that's what the credit land is, it's the open space?
The open space is the
Okay.
credit land.
Yeah,
And so
Title
that
V
is what this person is requesting, right? That
So
that
they
it's
were
not
just
built on.
requesting an amendment to the verbiage, but Title V actually has templates that you have to use.
That's gonna happen anyway, right?
And we can ask legal, I don't think you can adjust that template, maybe you can, I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna close the hearing. Any, public comments? Yes.
I'm Lisa Martin, so I'm one of the abutters, and I.
Can you just go to the
Oh,
microphone?
I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm Lisa Martin. I'm one of the abutters, and I'm one of the clients of the letter. So I'm trying to follow, and I'm just trying to understand. So what we're asking to put on is because we're trying to keep the land, at least the piece of it, in its natural state, because there is a vernal pool there. There's a small pond within it. So I'm just trying to understand, are you saying that you can't add that verbiage, or, I mean, just so I could clarify?
I don't believe so. We could request legal, that the credit land cannot be developed. It has to remain, you're not allowed to use fertilizer on it. Title V is pretty clear about the limitations about developing that. So I don't know if there was some confusion thinking that open space would be developed at one point, if that's the concern.
Okay.
It wouldn't be able to.
Okay. Then my other question is the open space, because Little Schaefer has open space as well, so they can't share open space, correct? So this has to make sure it has its own open space that does not overlap what Little Schaefer has for
Correct. You
open
can't
space.
double
Is that
count
correct?
credit
Okay.
land.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, who monitors to make sure that nothing is developed on that open space?
Typically, it's through the planning board, in that the zoning bylaw is very specific as to who gets to be in control of the open space. In some instances, it's the homeowners association. In very sensitive areas, it's not uncommon to have a private conservation trust or have a conservation easement on it. I don't know what Eastwood Company is proposing as far as with the planning board as to who controls the open space. But
Can I join in?
Susan.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just going to, that we're going to propose, have the town accept or convey it to the town, is what we've discussed.
I didn't
I
catch.
feel like we missed a critical first
Yeah.
word or two there,
Will you
Susan.
repeat the statement?
Yep, sorry about that. We've discussed conveying the open space to the town. So it would be, we would have a conservation restriction. And then this will be discussed at the planning board meeting and have through the Conservation Commission, accept ownership of the open space. We've discussed that
Oh, okay.
as our option.
Can I ask for one more clarification?
Of course.
Sorry, I always do that. Originally, I'm sorry, Mr. Clark was saying earlier, there was a misunderstanding in the variance, because I thought we were coming here, I thought they were asking for our approval to go against the rules, but there was a what did he say earlier? So if I can clarify that part as well.
Sure. The application was filled out as a variance. We're not asking for a variance from any of the Town of Harwich regulations or Title V. There's a specific provision within Title V that allows for nitrogen aggregation if you meet certain criteria. One, most importantly, does the land qualify as credit land, which we feel it does, and two, there are adequate provisions with grants of easements and restrictions that the land remains undeveloped in perpetuity, and also within that grant of easements that it goes on record so the land can never be used by another entity as credit land. So once this gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds, it is basically an easement in perpetuity that the land is held as open space and credit land for the dwellings that will be built.
And who filled out the application?
Pardon me?
I did.
Okay, I'm just
Susan.
trying to understand, so your own company filled out the application incorrectly? I guess
Our-
I'm just
our
trying to
form is
make
a
sure I
little
understand, so you asked for a variance and then now saying it's not the
Our
application?
form is misleading to
Oh, I
request to be
see.
on the Board of Health. It's only worded as a variance.
I see, okay. Just wanted to make sure, that I was trying to follow that and understand it, because I knew they were together, so I just was trying to understand
In order to
why.
apply to get before the board, the paperwork that we have says variance on it, so.
I see, okay, thank you for that clarification.
So, if I may, just, and bounce it off everybody here, just to be clear myself. When I see we have the definition of the credit land, which we can't necessarily change.
I don't think so, so I can read what title
It kind of irrelevant when but the credit land cannot be built on as it stands right now. Or like what's,
Once it's approved.
once it's approved, once this gets built, like the leftover land, it can't be built on it, and that's what I think you were just saying, it's in perpetuity. So even if this gets approved, now, there's also the open space, which sounds like it's gonna be left open and taken over by conservation, or that's what the proposal is.
One and the same land.
So, okay,
Yep.
so I feel like what you guys are asking through your attorney is what's gonna happen anyway, if I'm understanding all that correctly?
So I think the attorney was maybe referring to something else. The way it's written, it's prohibitions of credit land. The grantor further agrees to maintain the credit land as nitrogen credit land by prohibiting activities which have a detrimental effect on nitrogen loading on the credit land, including but not limited to wastewater discharges, the use of nitrogen fertilizer, the introduction of artificial impervious surfaces, the raising, breeding, or keeping of animals, livestock, or poultry for commercial purposes, and the creation or introduction of land underwater. The change in the condition of the credit land which results in the credit land or a portion thereof being within a velocity zone or regulatory floodway where will render the credit land or said portion of ineligible for nitrogen credit pursuant to through an OCMR 15216.
So, I think that's why we hired him, because I want to make sure he's representing what we want.
Can you go back to the microphone? Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I guess my point was that's why we hired him, right? So we want to make sure that he's stating what we're saying as a butter, so I want to say that's what we're saying, but that's why we hired him, so I would prefer that he confirm that when you're saying.
So
he's
your
confirmed.
desire is to have that open space preserved?
Yes, we want to make sure that they're not going over the nitrogen levels, that, I mean, there's a really gorgeous habitat there that we're just trying to protect, and we want to make sure that when we're not, they're staying within code of the nitrogen levels, and that we're doing the best that we can to save that open space.
And it pretty much sounds like that's what you're doing.
But again, that's why we hired the attorney, so it's hard for me to make it
No, I mean,
easier. Oh, them, sorry.
isn't that what the open space is pretty much?
This, as Katie said, there's a slightly different definition under the zoning bylaw. I think the zoning bylaw allows certain community activities within the open space. Title V is stricter in that they don't want it disturbed, so that any disturbance that would create an additional nitrogen source, like putting in a garden or something like that, or a ball field, which I think the zoning bylaw would allow in an open space. But like I said, Title V is stricter. They don't want any new sources of, or potential sources of nitrogen within the credit land.
I think this was directed at the planning board.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what it feels like. If that open space, that credit land, the plan is to have the conservation land, trust take it over, I feel like that's accomplishing your goals.
I hear you, but
Yep,
he said he was presenting it tonight and that we should come and support it, and so I hate to say that he got it wrong when he asked us to do that. I don't know.
It's not that he's wrong at all.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's wrong. I just want to make you feel better that Title V has stricter criteria.
Okay. Yeah, because there's some of the abutting land is also court deemed to not be touched as well, next to this piece of property as well. So there's a lot of effort into that preservation.
Is that a question?
No, just a statement.
Oh, okay.
Walk away.
I guess,
You'll like, I'll come
that's,
back.
great, no problem.
There might be other people on.
Any other, outside people public people that want to make a comment?
John Burns, are you there?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that if that property is going to be conservation eventually, that's perfect. The idea that anything else could be done to it, like you mentioned about ball fields, stuff like that. I'm satisfied with what's been said tonight.
But when would we know that? That's hard because, right, it's like this is before that. When does that get determined in the process?
Who it's being conveyed to?
Yeah, like we're saying we want it to be conservation, but they haven't voted on that yet, right? So.
What do we have in our?
The planning, can I speak?
Sure.
Is it okay if I say something? That the planning board hearing is next Tuesday. They will hopefully take action on our proposal and accept that we will be proposing to convey the open space to one of the three entities that are allowed, but our thought is to the Conservation Commission, and that is a process. So they can approve the subdivision as proposed, but we have to prepare a conservation restriction, and we have to go through the Conservation Commission, and that's a hearing, and then I believe it's the Board of Selectmen, that's a hearing. And David, I don't know if you can correct me or if this is it still needs to be accepted by the state, I believe, at the conservation restriction, but then the town would accept ownership if we convey that open space to them. So I don't know if David has a little bit more info on that, but that's my memory of how it happens. In our few last subdivisions that we've done, the homeowners associations have maintained the open space, but and only because the Conservation Trust and the town would not accept them. So the homeowners associations maintained ownership. We feel that this piece is you do. It has the pond, the wetland area, and it is a nice size contiguous piece of land that we feel the Conservation Commission would probably accept And I had a conversation with the town planner before he moved on a couple of weeks ago, and he said that was the right way to go with it, was to offer it to the town through the Conservation Commission. So that will be our intent.
Yeah, it's got some endangered wildlife on it
I think you
as
do,
well.
actually.
Yeah, I think the state has, over the last 20 years, pawned off a lot of approvals to the local boards, like minor variances, and I think this is one that requires only local approval so long as we use the template for the restriction, which we have, and the land qualifies as credit land.
Any other questions? Do you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay.
How does your, as the homeowners around, how does that differ than what this company is trying to do? I'm still not clear what you're asking the company.
Yeah, I think we just want to make sure that they're staying within the nitrogen levels. And then, so for example, my property that abuts that is court ordered to not be touched. It has to stay in its natural habitat. So we want to make sure that that same kind of concept shouldn't be just because it's mine versus theirs. It should, that same kind of concept is about because of that. So we're just wanting to make sure that we're not there. I thought that one of the things with the variances is they were asking for higher levels of nitrogen in the area. We're just trying to make sure that because of the habitat, it's an endangered area, that we just wanted to make sure that we're not going above the laws of the nitrogen levels. So that's all.
And it doesn't, so.
Okay, do I hear a motion? Do you want to say what? It's here.
You could close it, or if you're done.
Just-
Recommendation and then.
I did
Yes.
one last question. Let's hypothetically, this open land, this credit land area, even if conservation doesn't take it on, per the way things are written right now, that still has to be maintained, it just won't necessarily be, nobody can build on it, am I correct? So even if conservation isn't taking that over, it's still considered non-buildable land, is that accurate?
It has to meet that
Okay.
non-pervious, no fertilizer, that credit land, that will have to be
Natural.
maintained no matter what.
Okay.
Okay. And recommendation?
I would recommend approval of the 5-lot definitive subdivision, open space subdivision with nitrogen aggregation plan dated April 8, 2022 by Clark Engineering LLC with the following conditions. 1, a fully executed grant of Title V nitrogen loading restrictions. An easement be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds with a copy returned to the Health Department. 2, Turtle Run subdivision shall be restricted to 5 dwellings maximum with not to exceed 32 total bedrooms. The credit land shall adhere to the prohibitions and provisions set forth in the easement documents provided with the application. The Harwich Board of Health will not consider any variances from Title V or Harwich Board of Health regulations for any of the individual lots. The subdivision shall be served by town water, and the sewer lines are to exit on the roadside to prepare for any future municipal sewer.
I move to approve the 5-lot definitive open space subdivision. Oh,
I did.
Sorry.
You close it, okay.
I just want to make sure I got it right.
okay.
I'm
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun.
I closed it after, before the public people.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
I move to approve the 5-lot definitive open space subdivision with nitrogen aggregation plan dated April 8th, 2022 by Clark Engineering LLC with the conditions put forth by our health director. Do I need to read them individually?
You could write as written in the site summary,
As written in the site summary.
unless you wanted to amend any of them.
I'll second that.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous?
She abstained.
Right, but she's on, It's up here now.
Four. Yep. 400.
Okay. So that was a vote on the nitrogen aggregation plan. We still need to vote on,
Want to do a separate vote for the open?
well, just to cover
To make
everybody,
it easy,
probably wise. So
So
separate,
that motion was to approve the 5-lot definitive open space subdivision with nitrogen aggregation plan. You want it separated out?
because there's two things we're here for. One was the approval of the aggregation plan that has to do with the open space subdivision. The second half is, in aggregate, the subdivision will produce more than 2,000 gallons a day, so we fall under your,
0.211.
yes.
So should we redo the,
You could do two separate motions. It can have the same condition. Do you care if the conditions are the same on
That's fine with me. I just want to be on record that there was
two separate
two
motions?
separate things.
So you could have the first motion be to approve, move to approve the 5-lot definitive open space subdivision is the first motion. And the second could be move to approve the nitrogen aggregation plan dated April 8th, 2022.
is that,
That
Okay,
would be-
we just have to do is, okay, clump it into one.
Separate.
Noted. I move to approve the 5-lot definitive open space subdivision with the conditions put forth in the, by the health director and the,
okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes, aye.
I,
4-0. And then the second one?
and I as well move to approve the nitrogen aggregation plan dated April 8th, 2022 by Clark Engineering for that same subdivision as with the conditions put forth by the health director.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
still have to go to the planning board, so you still can bring up your other concerns too.
Thank you for coming. Good evening.
Oh, I can take you down, Tara.
And if you want, I can read Katie's report.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So Katie's health director report for May, we did a COVID test kit handout. Our team health graciously donated at-home rapid test kits to disperse to residents. We did that on Wednesday, May 11th, from 10 to 12. Health department staff handed out kits to residents in drive-through at 204 Sisson Road. It was a great service that we were able to provide to our residents.
How many people did you have?
I think we gave out about 250 test kits.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was very steady for the 2 hours.
Oh, good.
Thank you. We did the rabies baiting this past Tuesday. Jen and I got to drive around and we had the little polymer blocks. So hopefully we did our part to prevent any further rabies cases. We're very fortunate to hire a health inspector. We hired Jen Singleton, who just started this past Monday. She's been a great asset. She was the office manager at the dentist health department, so she knows another side, and now we're gonna train her to be our newest health inspector. Carrie, our senior health agent, attended the Safe Routes to School Bike Rodeo on Saturday, May 12th. And it was a great way to teach students rules of the road while practicing safe biking, and it incorporated moving and, trying to get kids out and active, which was really great. She's so good at that. We did receive a letter from someone, a real estate agent, regarding the oil tank requirements, asking that the Title V inspectors do a check of that oil tank. I just wanted the board to know that we did receive that recommendation. I don't personally think that's appropriate, but if you think that that's something you would like to be brought forward, we can certainly agenda that item at a later date. And that's all
Wouldn't they have to be certified to inspect it at the same?
I
Yeah, I don't.
think
I was
they
thinking
can.
that was
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure that you receive all the,
Wouldn't that be the fire department?
yeah.
Yeah.
So did you refer that to the fire department then?
No, they were asking that the septic inspectors report what it is. And, that's not in their, that's not part of their wheelhouse.
All
So
right.
I just wanted to forward that suggestion to the board. And that's it.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting?
I didn't do a COVID report. Do you want me to just do a?
No, and the permits.
Yeah,
Oh, all right, sorry.
Go to the permit.
the permits.
So
So
let's
there
do
was.
the COVID first.
Yeah, is that the one that goes on the Penny? So, the stable permit, Penny Forest, that was withdrawn. They're planning on moving, the proposed stable. They found a different location. I don't think there was any, I think the rest are just renewals. No new ones.
Yeah, Leslie's is just, it's a renewal, but with new owners, right?
Excuse me,
Yeah.
yes, that's correct, yep. So that one would be actually pending, thank you for pointing that out. That would be pending pre-opening inspection, and we still need to receive, a copy that that is transferred hands. So, everyone else is renewal.
Do I hear a motion to accept the
I
permits?
motion to accept permits, with the one exception that we are waiting on the, pre-opening inspection for Alessi's House of Pizza and the proof of sale.
And that, Penny has withdrawn.
And that Penny Forest is withdrawn, so it's,
Second it.
All in favor?
aye.
Okay, 5-0.
Brief COVID update, so as I mentioned, we have 22 active cases. We are lower than the state with our incidence rate, which is 22.7 per 100,000. Thank you. Compared to Massachusetts, which is 32.5 per 100,000. The percent positivity is 5.9, which is still lower than all of the state, which is 5.11. We all know how much I love the percent positivity rate, but our population is highly vaccinated. Our entire population is 84%, and our eligible individuals are 87%, which is really great. We are seeing milder cases. The state does have, what can I think of? Telemedicine appointments for anyone with COVID that would like to have rapid prescription of the pill form of treatment for COVID. So we're trying to put that on our website right now. It just rolled out this week.
Yeah,
It's a really
that'd
great
be
option.
helpful for work too, if, so that,
Yeah.
let me know when that
They
happens.
just rolled it out. You literally get an appointment within, they say, 5 to 10 minutes, and they say you'll have the medication that afternoon. So I haven't had anyone use it yet, so I don't know if it works. Sounds too good to
We're
be
pretty
true.
good. Our pharmacy has it in stock, but every once in a while they get caught in this interim reordering it, so that would be a
Yeah.
great avenue to,
We're gonna try to get that on the website. Paxlovid, yeah.
yeah,
Um,
let me know.
It says it's so good. I'm not, I can't.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
But I can send that out to you as well. They literally just rolled it out. But it's a really great resource for people.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second. Go ahead.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.